I woke up the next morning to 12 messages from him, sent starting at 2 a.m., which told me most of what I needed to know. He said he'd been searching for some ideal woman who doesn't exist, but back then, I thought she was very real. I found out he left me for a younger, smarter, prettier version of myself on a Tuesday afternoon. Hunched over my phone in a conference room with the blinds shut so no one could watch me fall apart. For 7 years, I had been the person he chose every morning without question. We lived together for 6 of those years. We traveled, argued about nothing, made plans for everything. 2 years before the end, he got down on one knee. A year before the end, we started talking seriously about having a baby. I was so certain about us that I had stopped being able to imagine a version of my life that didn't have him in it, which is probably why, when he finally told me the truth, I didn't say a single word. He came to me on a Sunday evening. I remember the light was low, that specific shade of late afternoon that makes everything feel slightly unreal. He sat across from me and said he'd been unhappy for a while, that the spark was gone, that he had genuinely tried to convince himself that a relationship without that spark was enough, but that he couldn't do it anymore. He said I had done nothing wrong. He actually used the phrase, the perfect partner, to describe me, and then he said he was leaving anyway. I stood there and let the words land. I cried without making a sound. When he finished, I asked him one question. Do you still love me? He paused. Then he said he loved me, but he wasn't in love with me anymore. We talked through the night. By the time the sun came up, there was nothing left to say. He packed a bag and went to a friend's. His brother and his best friend came back that weekend to collect everything else. I left the apartment while they were there because I couldn't watch. The first week is something I only remember in fragments. The peanut butter I ate straight from the jar because cooking felt impossible. The 5 vacation days I burned through without leaving my bed. The old photos I combed through one by one, searching for the moment I missed the hairline fracture that should have told me something was wrong. I never found it. After that week, I made a decision. I was going to move forward. I deleted all my social media apps. I threw myself into work. I picked up old hobbies. I went to the gym. I met my friends for dinners I didn't want to attend and smiled through all of them. I went back to my therapist. I told everyone I was doing fine. For 4 months, I was almost convincing even to myself. Then I ran into a mutual friend from college on the street. She said it was surprising how fast he had moved on. I told her I wasn't keeping track. I told her I was doing okay. I meant both things when I said them. When I got home, I re-downloaded Instagram. I knew exactly how bad an idea it was. I did it anyway. His profile was the same mostly. Same face, same goofy energy in every photo, but all the pictures of the two of us were gone, scrubbed, clean, like they'd never existed. And in their place, a new photo, him at his cousin's wedding, arm around a woman I didn't recognize. I should have stopped there. I didn't. I went to her profile. I Googled her name. And what I found felt less like discovery and more like a slow-moving collision I couldn't stop watching. She had gone to the same university I did. She had applied to the same prestigious program I was rejected from and gotten in. We both had green eyes and brown hair, but where I was ordinary, she looked like she'd been assembled from a different blueprint entirely. We were both thin, but she had the kind of figure that stops conversations. She had tens of thousands of followers without trying to be an influencer. She worked at the same company as me, had started there about a year ago, right around the time he had grown so busy and had landed a division so selective that I hadn't even applied. She was what I might have been 7 years younger, with better outcomes at every turn. And the love of my life was posting pictures of her with captions he'd never written for me. For the next month, I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked her profile every single day. I cataloged every photo, every tagged location, every trip they took together. I told myself I'd stop. I deleted the app. I woke up the next morning and downloaded it again. I couldn't explain the compulsion, only that it was stronger than my awareness that it was destroying me. My therapist tried to help. But the loop had its own momentum. By then, self-loathing, feeding curiosity, feeding more self-loathing, cycling faster than I could interrupt it. I knew what I was doing was masochistic. That knowledge changed nothing. What finally broke the cycle wasn't willpower. It was exhaustion and, unexpectedly, the act of writing it all down somewhere that wasn't my own head. I posted about it anonymously online. I didn't expect much. I was mostly just trying to put the weight somewhere outside myself so I could breathe. The response stunned me. Hundreds of people wrote back, not with platitudes, not with the hollow reassurances I'd been giving myself for months, but with something that felt closer to honesty. They told me the behavior was self-destructive. They told me I wasn't alone in it. They validated what I felt instead of asking me to skip past it. And in that strange, specific alchemy of being truly seen by strangers, something shifted. That night, I blocked him. I blocked her. I put the phone down. Not because I felt ready, because I was finally too tired to keep hurting myself. What followed those next few months wasn't a dramatic transformation. It was quieter than that, a slow reacquisition of things I hadn't noticed I'd let go. I stopped pretending. I called the people who knew me best and told them how bad it had actually gotten. They weren't shocked that it was bad. They were shocked that I had hidden it so well. That distinction mattered. I had confused performance with recovery and spent 4 months confusing everyone, including myself. I found a new therapist. My old one was fine, but there was a generational gap I hadn't known how to name until I was sitting across from someone who immediately understood the specific texture of my insecurities. Therapy isn't one size fits all. That's worth saying plainly. I started making plans I actually wanted to keep: brunches, hikes, shows. Small things that required being present in a body that wasn't fixated on someone else's Instagram grid. The relief was modest at first, and then it wasn't. Then, out of nowhere, my life rearranged itself in ways I hadn't engineered. Someone above me at the company quit without warning. The senior team needed to fill the role quickly and decided to go internal. I applied on something close to instinct, sat through 5 or 6 rounds of interviews that I hated, and got the position. The salary was better. The hours were more predictable. I had an office now, small, nothing remarkable but mine. The view overlooked the exact parking spot where he used to wait for me. Funny how the things you chase become the things you outgrow. The only catch, I would still be working in the same building as him. As both of them. I decided I could live with that. The first time I saw him again was just before the holiday break. I was leaving the office, moving fast to make my train, and there he was. Same face, same posture, same everything. We exchanged pleasantries. He said he liked my haircut. I thanked him, said I had to run, wished him well. On the train home, I noticed something. I hadn't felt anything. Not the rush of longing I'd braced for, not the collapse, mostly just the strange neutrality of encountering someone who used to be the center of my life and finding that we had become functionally strangers. I didn't reach for my phone to check his profile. I looked out the window instead. That felt like something. I woke up the next morning to 12 messages from him, sent starting at 2 a.m., which told me most of what I needed to know before I'd even read a word. He said he hadn't been able to stop thinking about me since he'd seen me outside, that he missed having me as his best friend, that he regretted how things ended. He said he'd been searching for some ideal woman who doesn't exist, and that seeing me made him want to try again to reignite the spark he'd once claimed was gone. He had apparently noticed that I'd blocked him months ago. He said it made him sad. I sat with those messages for a full day, let them breathe, noticed what I felt when I read them, the old pull, yes, but under it something clearer. He wasn't sorry that he had left. He was sorry that what he left for hadn't worked out. I wrote back. I kept it kind because that's who I wanted to be. I told him I treasured what we'd had. I told him I couldn't offer the trust I'd once given him. Not now, not yet, maybe not ever, because he had told me nothing was wrong right up until the moment he left, and I had believed him completely. I told him that if the missing piece in our relationship had felt so essential that he walked away from 7 years and an engagement and a plan for a family, then maybe we had always wanted different things. And the problem wasn't the spark. I wished him well. He didn't reply. I went home for the holidays. I let myself be held by people who had known me long before him. On New Year's Eve, I almost skipped my friend's party. I went anyway. I met someone there, funny, curious, a little cautious in the way people are when they've been through something. We talked for 3 hours without noticing the time. He had also just come out of a long relationship. He also wanted to settle down, to build something, to stop waiting. We've been on 3 dates. I'm trying not to read too much into it. I'm also, for the first time in a long time, genuinely excited about something that isn't a memory. I don't think I came out of this wiser in the ways I expected. I didn't learn that he was wrong for me all along, or that the relationship was secretly broken. I think it was real, and I think he meant it when he said I was the perfect partner, and I think that's the part that took the longest to make peace with, that sometimes love is real and still not enough, and that's not a failure with a clear cause. What I learned was smaller, that performance is not the same as healing. That hiding grief from people who love you doesn't protect them, it just makes you lonelier. That the loop you can't break alone sometimes breaks when you finally say the thing out loud. The conference room with the blinds shut feels far away now. I'm not all the way back, but I'm somewhere I recognize.
If this felt familiar, stay. Subscribe for more stories like this, quiet, honest, and closer to real life.